An international hero, Iowa's favorite son, Ambassador Kenneth Quinn.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Well, Lord Alton, thank you so much for organizing and hosting this event. On behalf of my wife, Lei Sun, our daughter Kelly, who is here, I have to point out she's a citizen of the world, born in Austria, went to school in the U.S., but she came here to have a master's degree about 15 years ago and fell in love with your country and I think as or even more significantly with her husband, Dan, and has been here ever since and is now a British subject. So we're very, very proud of that. Dan's mother, Sue, and Barbara Scott are here from Leamington and there, so our family extended. So I want to say a special word about Sir Gordon Conway, who has been a member of my Council of Advisors at the World Food Prize. I'm so thrilled. And Tsitsi, who is here, Masiyiwa, her husband Strive Masiyiwa, is also a member of our Council of Advisors. But I want to introduce three other participants in the World Food Prize who are here, Catherine and Adam and Sam, where you put your hands up back here. There they are. When they were about 15 years old, they came to the World Food Prize Youth Institute, and then I sent them off. Their parents were worried, but they were 16 or 17 to India and Peru and where was the other? Turkey. And Turkey for 8 weeks working at international agricultural research centers. They're now here in the UK studying to get advanced degrees. We're so proud of them that they've been launched in this direction and that. So Honorable Tugendhat, thank you. Sir Trevor, other lords, baronesses, members of Parliament who are here, knights. What an honor this is for me. In Africa, they say, all protocol observed, which means if I forgot you, you're covered and you can't hold it against me. Yeah, huh? Yeah, yes. And so I'm, but going to Rwanda, and this is my second trip, being in the Holocaust Museum there, coming to the National Holocaust Museum in Nottinghamshire, and then being here to speak about Cambodia really brings home how in the 20th century, those three genocides, close to 10 million victims, and this indelible stain on human history. And it brings home why it's so absolutely critical to be doing things both to ameliorate the after effects and to prevent genocides from ever taking place again. Now, I have to say, Lord Alton, you have made my dream come true by being here with this event. And my dream was, I think we're from, Shai Kim is here from the, there she is, from the American Embassy. So when I come from Iowa, I was born in the Bronx. That's why, and I moved to Iowa when I was, a teenager. That's why I'm an adopted son of Iowa. But when you're from Iowa, you're going to grow up in a little town, you kind of become a diplomat. You pass all the tests somehow. And I show up in Washington, and I go over for the interview, and where? And I said, you don't have to tell me. Where I want to go is I'm going to go to London, or Paris, or Vienna if I have to. And so I was 25 years old, and they said, you're single, you're still draft eligible, you haven't been in the military. And before I knew what happened, I was being trained in Vietnamese, and I'm in the back of a single engine plane landing on a gravel road in the Mekong Delta. They pull over, they don't stop the engine, they open the door, they threw my bag out, and they said, we'll be back to get you in 18 months if you're still alive, and then you can go on to your career. And it was going to be there. They were going to send me to Harvard, and then to study labor relations, and be assigned someplace in Western Europe. So that was what my future was. So I'm out working in 8 villages. I have no background in agriculture whatsoever, and in these, we're trying to promote economic development and defeat the insurgent Viet Cong who were underground. So 2 things were happening just by chance. We were upgrading this old dirt road, farm to market road, that ran through all 8 villages. And the first miracle crops that Gordon Conway knows about were arriving. The miracle rice, IR8 rice, is arriving from the Philippines. And it was incredible. The rice could grow in half the time. So a farmer who was just a subsistence farmer now could have 2 crops and grow some melons and uplift his family, her family, dramatically in a short period of time. And so we fixed the road through about 4 of the villages. The agricultural workers are there trying to convince farmers what to do and to use these new crops. And I observed that it was only in those villages where we fixed the road that farmers used the new rice. And the impact was immediate and dramatic on all these things. Child mortality goes down, nutrition goes up, and unexpectedly, security improves. That the road and the rice undercut the Viet Cong in a way that we couldn't with bombs, bullets, boots on the ground. And suddenly, you can go to these villages and day and night without security. The other 4, with no good road, everything is the same, insecure. So this was, here, 12,000 miles from home. I understood suddenly how my own country was transformed. It was building roads and new agricultural crops. And so I wrote to the State Department and said, I don't want to go to Harvard. I don't want to work in Western Europe on labor relations. I want to stay in Vietnam. Now, I'm sure in the British Foreign Service, when there are such clear signs of mental instability, you're brought home right away. But they were desperate for people to stay in Vietnam. They let me there. I stayed 5.5 years. I met my wife, who was then my fiance, and I was, in 1973, out wandering along the Vietnam-Cambodian border. I was gathering information. I'd sit at night, write it longhand. Once a week, a plane would land, and I'd give the pilot my reports to fly off to the regional capital where they'd be typed up and dispatched. And my fiance, she's a Saigon girl, you can tell. There, she comes down. I want to take her out and show her around. And so what do you do in Chow Duck on the border? You go out to this nearby mountain and you climb up and you can see all the way into Cambodia. 40, 50 miles. And it's a Saturday in June 1973. We get up there and I say, look, you can see all the way into Cambodia. And there, in front of us, was not just these green rice fields, but these plumes of black smoke. 40, 50, 60, everywhere, in every direction, plumes of black smoke going up. What could it be? No idea. Never seen anything like that. But over the next several days, what became apparent was, from refugees fleeing into Vietnam that I went and interviewed, was that at that same moment, in every village, the rebels who had been sort of Boy Scout revolutionaries suddenly became the Khmer Rouge. And these young cadre took off their masks, as it were, pulled out their guns, told everybody, stand up, drop everything, and walk out of your village. And you're going out to a new life in the jungles where you're going to build new structures and you're going to be part of these communal labor battalions. And as people are quaking and walking out, and they say, and just to be sure you understand that this you can never come back, there can never be reversed. They set fire to every village. Houses are all built of wood and thatch. They just went up. Every village is burning, all implementing Pol Pot's design to create this pure society, to eliminate everybody who didn't fit in it on this day. And the man who was organizing it was Tamok. So I gathered information and interviewed people everywhere I could get it, assembled it in this 40-page report. And the pilot came, I handed it to him, they typed it up, sent it off, and no one did believe me. And so then when Phnom Penh was taken 14 months later, that the entire population there, like people like Sok Pao, who's here, thank you so much for being here. We were talking about all that he went through. And all of them marched out of Phnom Penh. And as you're marching out, slowly you're taken off to be sorted. And the sort was done by these young cadre. And there's only two things. If you're going to be put to work, you go here. If not, you're going to be put to death, you go there. One minister of the government in Cham Prasit told me how when he was being sorted, and that because he had glasses, they said, you have glasses, you're educated, you die. Everybody with glasses. Who's got glasses in here? You all would have been executed without a single question. He had very thick glasses because he had a heavy corrective prescription in those days. It took a big piece of glass. And he had this moment of inspiration. They're pulling him with the noose. And he said, no, I'm blind. I'm blind. He takes off the glasses. Here, look for yourself. So these young guys take the glasses. They go like this. Oh, he's telling the truth. Take the noose off. You can live. At the end, when the 1979, when the North Vietnamese army stormed into, actually it was Christmas. It's the best Christmas present a communist society's ever delivered to anybody. They swept in and drove the Khmer Rouge out of cities and towns and villages. And they called all the educated people who were left in the country to come to Phnom Penh. There were 62 people left who had any amount of high school, college education, 62 out of 7 million. About 1.7 million to 2 million died in 4 years under the Khmer Rouge. I happened to be in Thailand. I saw these 30,000 people stagger out. You know, they made it out, and they're laying in this open field, and emaciated, exhausted, many of them not able to move. And we had never seen anything like it. It was like the Dante's Inferno, the 7th level of hell. And we rushed back to Iowa, sent doctors and nurses and food and medicine. And for the next 10 years, this battle between the Vietnamese and the Khmer Rouge go on. But like the Americans in Vietnam, couldn't get rid of them. And finally, they gave up. And there's this moment, this international moment, when the Perm 5 comes together, and the United Kingdom deserves great credit for its part in the Perm 5 process. And we devised an election to be held, supervised by the UN. Kofi Annan was the director of this peacekeeping, bringing people there, and created the opportunity for our countries to come back, have embassies there. And as we were having a pledging conference, I was sitting in a hotel in Tokyo with two USAID people. We had $13 million. And I took the placemat and said, here's what we're going to do, and drew the plan for this. And it was go and rent all the road grading equipment you can find in Thailand, drive it into Cambodia, and start grading roads and doing this. And so we did this and continued while I was ambassador. And it was because the road is where not only new agriculture, but human rights, education, all flow to people. And it was the one thing the Khmer Rouge couldn't abide. They couldn't withstand it. And as they dropped off, we tracked Pol Pot. We tried so hard to capture him. Until on that night, March 6th, Saturday, again, 1999, my phone rings. It's the Prime Minister. And he said, the last Khmer Rouge has stepped across the border from Thailand and surrendered. His name was Tha Mok, the same person who implemented that same draconian program on that day in June in 1973 in southern Cambodia. He was the last one. He surrenders. We have eradicated the single worst genocidal, mass murdering terrorist organization of the second half of the 20th century. But you know, even you eradicate that, people, the survivors suffer beyond this. And it's you see it, I had about 150 Cambodian employees, had them all in a room, and I said, everybody who was in a Khmer Rouge camp, put up your hand. All the hands went up. But I expected that. Everybody who lost an immediate member of your family, your mother, your father, your spouse, your children, your brother, your sister, raise your hand. Every hand goes up. Every hand went up. So it's what Aegis Trust, I have such incredible respect and appreciation to Dr. James Smith, Smith family, Glenn Ford, all the members of the Aegis Trust family for what they've done, keeping alive the memories and the testament of the survivors. I had a special privilege yesterday. I was at Lincoln Castle in Lincolnshire. I got to see the Magna Carta. Wow, you know, the source of this, right? The source of Parliament and the source of democracy in America. And I was so in awe of it. And we're driving down on I'm told it was called A1, but the North Road, and built on the old Roman road and part of the, Pax Romana. And I was thinking 1215 is also a significant year in Cambodian history. It was the apex of ancient Khmer society when King Jayavarman II ruled, when Angkor Wat was the largest city in the world and when the center of activity. And since then, now 800 years, Great Britain has evolved into this magnificent parliamentary democracy. And Cambodia evolved this incredible, beautiful culture of architecture, music, dance here. And suddenly, all of that culture was at risk. It came this close to being obliterated. And one of the key factors was that election, that democratic election, which devolved from the Magna Carta, was one of the key elements that ended the genocide and preserved the Cambodian culture. Amazing how history can come together. I'm being a big believer in roads. I think in looking forward to the future, I believe that roads are key, whether it's in Africa, South Asia, to ending conflict, ending genocides, possibility of genocide. And in doing so, maybe what was the Pax Romana built on Roman roads might become the Pax Agricultura. And it would be our great privilege to be part with all of you in your great endeavors to do that together. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for this incredible honor. And thank you for making my dream come true. I'm finally in London, you know, in a magnificent place as I dreamed in 1967.
Well, I'm very glad we've been able to make the dream come true.